books on a conservative basis, I think, do this and bring it to book. Right.
I have
So,
a small question.
yes.
Sir, logo, trademark and brand, is it same or they are different?
They are different.
All three are different.
They are different. Brand name, like we saw in the morning, under the edifice of goodwill, you will have for product related companies the brand name. The same brand name, once registered, becomes a trademark.
No, that is what I mean. The brand name has to be registered. Generally, it's the logo of that company which is being registered as trademark.
Yes.
So that is what I am asking. In general, these they are same. Most of the cases.
Your brand name, compare it to Tata.
Yes, like that we have that logo, Tata.
Yeah, that's your brand name.
Yes.
But for Tata Motors, there's a different trademark. For Tisco, there's a different trademark. For Tata Global Beverages, there are different trademarks, including Italy. For Indian hotels, different trademark. Because trademarks then become product specific.
No, sir, that I agree. But when they have to promote that particular product, either it's Tata Motors or it's Tata's Indian Hotels, but they have to spend their money on each and every logo.
Absolutely.
To promote that particular one of their brand.
Let me put it this way, I got your point. All the trademarks, all the service marks, all the logos are at the end of the day brand names. So within the broad umbrella of brand name, you have these. Now, we are all members of the CA Institute. Some of us are ACAs, some of us are FCAs. Right? But we all are members of the institute. So if the brand name were to be correlated with ICAI sort of body, but different options, different possibilities. Right? So under the broad umbrella of brand name, you have all this
No,
trademarks.
we are following this cost model. Like just US Mahindras, they have changed their logo. Okay,
Yes.
so it may have happened in the 10th year. So should I have taken the cost beyond that 10 years, or should I will restart from that 10th year? The fresh advertisement selling cost that I will do.
Subjective. But if I were to do, I would take for, regardless of whether they change the logo or not. Because by changing, they're not like removing Mahindra from the name. They may have changed the way they write Mahindra. Like recently Adani did it. Adani changed the color schemes and all this. But the name remains Adani. Right? So I would not pay more importance to the form, I would go for the substance. Right? Mahindra remains Mahindra. The color scheme, the things could have been different. But I still know the Mahindra I knew 25 years back, 20 years back. So I would go for the substance.
Even if there is a change of logo,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Not that it doesn't matter, there may be a minor variation, but the people who are fanatics for Mahindra, they would still identify Mahindra, right?
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, in case of an M&A transaction, do we need to value a brand separately, or it will be embedded into the discounted cash flow or something?
It's not valued actually. In M&A transaction, you plain vanilla say, what are the intangibles already present on the books? And most often they are trademarks. Most often they will be trademarks and copyrights. So what you do is you make a fair value assessment and bring it on your books in a consolidated statement, consolidated balance sheet. You will have the same things, maybe at slightly different levels.
So for these brand values and patents and copyrights, do promoter will charge a premium on the normal value?
So that helps you in your investment decision making. You're saying, I have to pay more. How much more? Right? So we saw that difference, right? So that difference, we can say because of brand name, customer relationships, customer loyalties, customer retention, whatever you want to call it. Right. Good question. Yeah. Qualitative, yes. No, but his question was as a practical thing in M&A transactions. Generally, what you do is whatever is already recorded, uska fair value kar lijiye. And you don't generally bring brand name on the books, but you bring trade names on the books, well, trademarks. Those
So
are
like
not.
in a M&A transaction, generally we use a multiple method, like take a multiple of EBITDA and all. तो इसका brand value का भी do we need to add the premium or not? मतलब
Yeah.
it's
So very relevant question, and because you asked this question, let me share one more perspective regarding IFRS, which is very relevant. Take for example, there's an acquisition for killing the competition. Okay, now, we are not talking about any synergies here. We are talking about capturing the entire market, right? For example, if Tata Motors were to acquire Ashok Leyland, they would not promote Ashok Leyland after the sort of acquisition, but they would still bring Ashok Leyland, whatever is the symbol, of logo or trademark of Ashok Leyland, right? They would still bring it on the consolidated balance sheet of Tata Motors, and IFRS allows this, because IFRS says regardless of your intention to use it for the optimal purpose or not, even if you're making an acquisition for killing the competition or you don't have any intention of using it, you should bring it onto your books as any other fair value acquirer would have done. So have that also in mind.
like Flipkart acquired XY.
Yes.
XY is
Yeah.
shut down.
So regardless of your intention to use it or kill it, you can still bring it onto the books as any other acquirer would have done. This is also another perspective. So we try to do it from a cost approach. See, from a relative valuation approach, I think this is one of the easiest things to actually do. You take a branded company, company B, you take a generic company, company G, and they should be operating in the same market, right? You lay your hands on market cap, the net debt, and you arrive at the enterprise value. You can easily get their recent sales, EBITDA, and capital invested, average capital invested in each of these companies. And once you have these numbers with you, you arrive at the enterprise value multiples. So EV to EBITDA, EV upon sales, EV upon capital invested. So you have the relative comparison for both the competitors in that particular industry segment or market segment, whatever you want to call it. And then you arrive at a range of brand name valuation based on sales, based on EBITDA, based on capital invested. And how it's done, I'll show you for one of them. You take the sales of the branded company, multiply it with the difference between 4.49 and 0.77. Same way, you take the capital invested of 16,000, multiply it with the difference between 6.01 and 1.63. And here are the results. That's a chock-a-block, quick sort of back of the envelope estimate, if you have to have some comfort level in your mind. Because all these things are very readily available sort of things, and very handy to use, easy to use. Not for the purpose of sharing off the block with the inquirer, but for your own comfort, as a sanity check again, right? Research essay, I think if we understood how we did following the cost approach, how we valued brand, we'll not spend more of our time, because basically the same premise that we are taking here. Okay. The unamortized, you see the unamortized portion is totaled. Here you say that your R&D capability will have a lifetime of only 5 years, right? And you come to an estimate. For want of time, it's the same thing, other than at the cost of repeating, I tend not to spend time on this. The last bit, human resources, and then now have a look at this 4 M's that we historically have understood. So what are they? You started with money. Please start with the first box, men, because that's the message. Men, money, machinery, materials. Historically, we have known that these are the primary sources of operations, or even being present in any sort of realm you want to be. Now look at this in terms of recognition, right? Cash and bank, plant and machinery, inventory. Zero. Some companies arbitrarily disclosure not in the main balance sheet, additional information. And that's a leading example. Again, from one perspective, I thought we should look at it like this, 4 M's. And now just look at the plethora of options that we have got. So many approaches. Under each approach, we have got so many models. Right? So all this is for theoretical purpose. But like we have tried to do since morning, we'll touch upon the key points. And I'll take you through the most widely used method for HR valuation, which is Levin-Schwartz model. I'll tell you what, in my humble opinion, is not correct with that model, which is the most widely used model. And then I'll tell you which of these would be a more logical way of valuing HR. And then we end it, right? That will be better use of our time. Now the most widely used method, like I said, is Levin-Schwartz model. Incidentally, Infosys also is using Levin-Schwartz model to value its human resources, which somebody was mentioning it's 1,25,000 crores as of 31st March 2012. Now, essentially what this model does, and I'm sure it will be more comforting to note here, I'm talking from the negative perspective, it will be absolutely discomforting to note what they actually do in this method. They take the salary costs, salary, emoluments, remuneration, benefits, whatever you want to call, to retain the employees, from today till the date of retirement of each and every individual. I'm sure it will open immediately at least 10 questions. What are you saying? Salary costs up to retirement. Infosys has like 1 lakh employees. How will you do, for each employee retirement age, he can retire earlier, he may get promoted. Who will perform better performance incentive? How to factor salary costs? If you're saying salary costs, then how will salary cost give me the value? I'm talking about economic benefit, not talking about what is the present value of what I'm going to incur. And if you have all these plus extra thoughts flickering across your mind, straight away, we are all on the same page. But the fact of the matter is, it's the most widely used method. I'm just sharing what this does.
Company like this one, they might be calculating retirement benefits, so the data is already available with them.
Like I said, even in the beginning, this will be more comforting rather than discomforting. So that's one thing which I'm not able to identify with also. I don't think ever you can take the costs associated with any particular asset acquisition, for that matter, and project costs, discount them to the present value, and then say this is the value. You're getting my point, what I'm trying to say. Okay. I expected a sharper reaction saying all that is in this method is arbitrary, but nevertheless, it's a very sober reaction. Thank you for that. I'm just sharing what this method says, okay? But taking one step back and trying to understand from a different perspective, what is wrong in this model? For any capital investment decision, what we effectively are doing is we are following the NPV rule. Yeah, all of us. NPV rule. What is NPV rule? Net present value. If it's positive, we go for that decision, right? So what are we doing under NPV rule? We have year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as many number of years. We have cash flow 1, cash flow 2 as economic benefits, right? We bring it to present value terms, first of all, and whatever X is the value, and then in time 0, which is as of now, we have a cost. So C0, we have Y. In other words, if I had a 0 here, we'll have a minus CF0. This is what we do in NPV. I'm just breaking it into 2 parts. This part is for value. This is what we're doing in DCF valuation. CF1, CF2, everything brought to present value is our valuation. This part of NPV is the cost. Because once you bring all those future expected benefits or the real crux of the value to present value terms, it becomes comparable with C0. And that comparison is X minus Y. So X minus Y, if it is positive, accept the project. So under NPV rule, what are we doing? In a sense, we're doing a cost-benefit analysis. Or in other words, we are saying benefit or value is something that should be analyzed differently and then compared against cost. And here what we are trying to say that value is coming from the cost. The difference is here you are incurring the entire cost now. Here you will be incurring the cost as a flow. But this is something which, I'm sorry to say, but I'm not able to sort of digest for this model, but it's widely used. In my opinion, the Morse model is by far the best known model, more logical. What it tries to do is it tries to factor in the generatable business by the key employees over whatever is the projection period, reduces the salary costs of all those employees, come to the net benefit, and that net benefit stream is discounted to present value to place a value on human resources. So if you want me to choose my favorite, I would go for the Morse model. Okay? There can be other questions saying it's not capturing the value of working in groups. One person individually may be 1, but 1 plus 1 may be 3, or 2 plus 3 may be 7. The value of working coherently as a project team, as a success building team is missing here, because you're going individual. So that was addressed by Jaggi and Lau model. It factored in those sort of variation. And this model, Flamholt's model, was a further development because it built into an expectancy of promotions, career development, increment sort of thing, based on the past experience, of course. But it was better than assuming all the employees who are with us today will remain with us till, not eternity, till they retire. Each one of them, forget promotions or whatever, they work individually or in groups. We factor the costs of retaining those employees, and whatever is the present value of all that cost is the value. So at least this is better logical, right? Anyway, so this is for theoretical purpose, which I'll be sending across also, have a read also. Historical cost, replacement cost, not very realistic and not used also. Cost approach for HR valuation. Opportunity cost, again it's more of, what should I say, intuitive. If you want to think more imaginatively, then you can say opportunity cost method. I'll forget that, it will confuse you further. Again, that will be a part of what I send. So, but Levenstock's model, what we already discussed in terms of formula or in terms of what each thing could mean is simply this. Mind that I here is the personal earnings. Personal earnings are costs for you, right, as a company.
What is the purpose of doing this HR valuation? You are not going to sell your human resources like animals and all that.
Livestock, right?
Yeah, livestock. You are not going to sell it. It's for you and for you only. The valuation is there. It's not for me. If I am going to buy your company, most of the people, they may not come. So what's the use of that HR valuation? Just for my business. I'm not.
Yeah, okay. The thing is, when it comes to successful companies like Infosys, or take a Goldman Sachs, or take a Morgan Stanley, take a McKinsey, today they are established brands. But the critical factor that has always been the sort of pillar of those brand names has been the HR. Warren Buffett bought into shares of Goldman Sachs, I think, right?
Yeah.
The main factor that he would have considered is the quality of talent in Goldman Sachs. The brand is there, of course. The brand has come over so many years by having the best brains on earth. So when we talk about the intangible quotient, innovation quotient, competitive edge of these names, the intangible is brand, of course. But the key, take away their HR and they'll become ordinary. So the companies which are the darlings of those markets, in terms of everybody vying for a pie of that cake, will become normal companies. I'm coming to your point. So if we have to do a fair valuation of that particular company, I would even say 40% of that value would be because of the talent. And there has to be some sort of attempt to try to place a number on it. Now, unfortunately, the most widely used method is Levin-Schwartz model, like I already said. But it has to evolve as a thought process. We have to come up with more logical ways of trying to ascribe some value to it, because it has value. It has value because somebody takes over the manpower of Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs doesn't remain Goldman Sachs. Maybe it will not even remain Silverman Sachs. So, I mean, this is my submission. You said, why do HR valuation, right? Why do HR valuation is perfectly, I would say, wrong to sort of ignore, because I'm telling you the practicalities of how important these can be. Right?
In fact, it has to be bundled with other.
It has to be bundled.
It has to be independent, isolated, like
yeah,
other
correct,
brand
absolutely. It has to be bundled even with the brand name, because whatever said and done today, the brand is as valuable as the HR. But the key proposition is what is supporting each other. But the intangible value is there, right?
But sir, at the end of the day, all these valuations is reflected in my cash flow. So
Yeah.
that is reflected in my valuation, that is reflected in my fair value of the company. So
I'm actually excited to see so many questions, and I would have wished if we had another full day session where we actually talked about all these competitive advantages, how we actually have so many ways of thinking about the value components in silos, like we did in the morning, breaking growth into compartments, breaking return on capital employed, ROI, into compartments, and trying to understand, going behind each and everything and trying to understand.
Sir, I'm bigger while I'm going to business.
Okay.
Then the purchaser will tell me that I'm paying you this much of value to you because of your growth prospects.
No, you're talking about GI, geographical indication?
No, no, no.
Bikaner wala.
As a brand.
As a brand.
Oh, Bikaner wala. Okay, sorry.
Purchaser will tell me that I'm going to pay you this much of value because of your brand.
Yeah.
You will not pay me extra for my brand name. This is what I want to say.
just to add upon what he said, there is an actual transaction, one of the leading kids retailer is on the block right now.
Yeah.
And the promoter is demanding, please don't cover me.
It's okay.
The
For us all.
promoter is demanding X crores of amount for his brand name separately. That will cover, so in that case he is demanding a separate value for his brand and separate values for his business and his infrastructure.
The purchaser will tell that I'm going to pay you this much of value because of your brand. He will not pay me extra for my brand name.
So my work is done today. I'm even to integrate these flashes. It should, from at least now on, start hitting us, flickering through our minds. Every time we see something of quality, something abstract, something debatable, we'll at least have some semblance of so many ways to think about the same things. Nobody has the exact answer. And all views are expert views, or all views are normal views. Take it like that. Start thinking and send me any of the thought flashes that you have. I'll try to respond to most of the things the way I understand.